The concept of a tree of life has been used in biology, religion, philosophy, and mythology. A tree of life is a common motif in various world theologies, mythologies, and philosophies. It alludes to the interconnection of all life on our planet and serves as a metaphor for common descent in the evolutionary sense. The term tree of life may also be used as a synonym for sacred tree. The tree of knowledge, connecting to heaven and the underworld, and the tree of life, connecting all forms of creation, are both forms of the world tree or cosmic tree, according to the Encyclopædia Britannica, and are portrayed in various religions and philosophies as the same tree. Religion and mythology. Various trees of life are recounted in folklore, culture and fiction, often relating to immortality or fertility. They had their origin in religious symbolism. Ancient Persia, in pre-Islamic Persian mythology, the world tree is a large, sacred tree which bears all seeds. Ahriman created a frog to invade the tree and destroy it, aiming to prevent all trees from growing on the earth. As a reaction, God created two fish staring at the frog to guard the tree. The two fishes are always staring at the frog and stay ready to react to it. Because Ahriman is responsible for all evil including death, while Ahura Mazda is responsible for all good. The concept of world tree in Persian mythology is very closely related to the concept of tree of life. Another related issue in ancient mythology of Iran is the myth of two trees who were the ancestors all of living being. This myth can be considered as a prototype for the creation myth where living beings are created by gods. Ancient Egypt. In Egyptian mythology, in the Ennead system of Heliopolis, the first couple, apart from Shu and Tefnut and Geb Anuit, are Isis and Osiris. They were said to have emerged from the acacia tree of Iriset, which the Egyptians considered the tree of life, referring to it as the tree in which life and death are enclosed. Acacia trees contain DMT, a psychedelic drug associated with spiritual experiences. A much later myth relates how Set killed Osiris, putting him in a coffin, and throwing it into the Nile, the coffin becoming embedded in the base of a tamarisk tree. The Egyptians' holy sycamore also stood on the threshold of life and death, connecting the two worlds. Armenia. In ancient Armenia, the tree of life was a religious symbol and was drawn on walls of fortresses and carved on the armor of warriors. The branches of the tree were equally divided on the right and left sides of the stem, with each branch having one leaf, and one leaf on the apex of the tree. Servants stood on each side of the tree with one of their hands up as if they are taking care of the tree. Assyria. The Assyrian tree of life was represented by a series of nodes and crisscrossing lines. It was apparently an important religious symbol, often attended to by eagle-headed gods and priests, or the king. Assyriologists have not reached consensus as to the meaning of this symbol. It is multivalent. The name Tree of Life has been attributed to it by modern scholarship. It is not used in the Assyrian sources. In fact, no textual evidence pertaining to the symbol is known to exist. Bahá'í faith. The concept of the Tree of Life appears in the writings of the Bahá'í faith, where it can refer to the manifestation of God, a great teacher who appears to humanity from age to age. An example of this can be found in the hidden words of Baha'u'llah. Have ye forgotten that true and radiant morn, when in those hallowed and blessed surroundings ye were all gathered in my presence beneath the shade of the Tree of Life, which is planted in the all-glorious paradise? Or struck ye listened as I gave utterance to these three most holy words, O friends. Prefer not your will to mine, never desire that which I have not desired for you, and approach me not with lifeless hearts, defiled with worldly desires and cravings. Would ye but sanctify your souls, ye would at this present hour recall that place and those surroundings, and the truth of my utterance should be made evident unto all of you. The concept can be broken down still further, with the manifestation as the roots and trunk of the tree and his followers as the branches and leaves. The fruit produced by the tree nourishes an ever-advancing civilization. A distinction has been made between the Tree of Life and the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. The latter represents the physical world with its opposites, such as good and evil and light and dark. In a different context from the one above, the Tree of Life represents the spiritual realm, where this duality does not exist. China. In Chinese mythology, a carving of a tree of life depicts a phoenix and a dragon. The dragon often represents immortality. A Taoist story tells of a tree that produces a peach every 3,000 years. The one who eats the fruit receives immortality. An archaeological discovery in the 1990s was of a sacrificial pit at Sanxingdi in Sichuan, China. Dating from about 1200 BCE, it contained 3 bronze trees, one of them 4 meters high. At the base was a dragon, and fruit hanging from the lower branches. At the top is a strange bird-like creature with claws. Also found in Sichuan, from the late Han Dynasty, is another tree of life. The ceramic base is guarded by a horn beast with wings. The leaves of the tree are coins and people. At the apex is a bird with coins and the sun, Christianity. In addition to the Hebrew Bible verses, the tree of life is symbolically described in the Book of Revelation as having healing properties. 1. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. In Catholic Christianity, the tree of life represents the immaculate state of humanity free from corruption and original sin before the fall. Pope Benedict XVI has said that the cross is the true tree of life. Saint Bonaventure taught that the medicinal fruit of the tree of life is Christ himself. Saint Albert the Great taught that the Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ, is the fruit of the tree of life. In Eastern Christianity, the tree of life is the love of God. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The tree of life appears in the Book of Mormon in a revelation to Lehi. It is symbolic of the love of God. Its fruit is described as most precious and most desirable above all other fruits, which is the greatest of all the gifts of God. In another scriptural book, salvation is called the greatest of all the gifts of God. In the same book, eternal life is also called the greatest of all the gifts of God. Because of these references, the tree of life and its fruit is sometimes understood to be symbolic of salvation and post-mortal existence in the presence of God and his love. Swedenborgianism. According to Swedenborgianism, the first 12 chapters of Genesis are a symbolic retelling of ancient truths. In his Arcana Coelestia, Emanuel Swedenborg expounded on the symbolism and underlying spiritual meaning of both Genesis and Exodus, and the symbolism regarding the tree of life. Europe. In Dictionnaire mytho-hermétique, Antoine-Joseph Pernety, a famous alchemist, identified the tree of life with the elixir of life and the philosopher's stone. In Eden in the East, Stephen Oppenheimer suggests that a tree-worshipping culture arose in Indonesia and was diffused by the so-called Younger Dryas event of c. 8000 BCE, when the sea level rose. This culture reached China, then India and the Middle East. Finally, the Finno-Ugaritic strand of this diffusion spread through Russia to Finland, where the Norse myth of Yggdrasil took root. Georgia, the Borgoli is an ancient Georgian tree of life symbol. Germanic paganism and Norse mythology. In Germanic paganism, trees played a prominent role, appearing in various aspects of surviving texts and possibly in the name of gods. The tree of life appears in Norse religion as Yggdrasil, the world tree, a massive tree with extensive lore surrounding it. Perhaps related to Yggdrasil, accounts have survived of Germanic tribes honoring sacred trees within their societies. Examples include Thor's oak, sacred groves, the sacred tree at Uppsala, and the wooden Erminsul pillar. In Norse mythology, the apples from Ea de Green's ash box provide immortality for the gods. Islam. The tree of immortality is the tree of life motif as it appears in the Quran. It is also alluded to in hadiths and tafsir. Unlike the biblical account, the Quran mentions only one tree in Eden, also called the tree of immortality, which Allah specifically forbade to Adam and Eve. Satan, disguised as a serpent, repeatedly told Adam to eat from the tree, and eventually both Adam and Eve did so, thus disobeying Allah. The hadiths also speak about other trees in heaven. However, according to the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam, Quranic reference to the tree is symbolic. Eating of the forbidden tree signifies that Adam disobeyed God. Jewish sources. Hes-chaim, Hebrew for tree of life, is a common term used in Judaism. The expression, found in the Book of Proverbs, is figuratively applied to the Torah itself. Hes-chaim is also a common name for yeshivas and synagogues as well as for works of rabbinic literature. It is also used to describe each of the wooden poles to which the parchment of a Sefer Torah is attached. The tree of life is mentioned in the Book of Genesis. It is distinct from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. After Adam disobeyed God by eating fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, he was driven out of the Garden of Eden. Remaining in the garden, however, was the tree of life. To prevent the man's access to this tree in the future, cherubims with a flaming sword were placed to the east of the garden. In the Book of Proverbs, the tree of life is associated with wisdom. Wisdom is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is every one that retaineth her. In 15:4 the tree of life is associated with calmness, a soothing tongue is a tree of life. But perverseness therein is a wound to the spirit. The Book of Enoch, generally considered non-canonical, states that in the time of the Great Judgment God will give all those whose names are in the Book of Life fruit to eat from the tree of life. Kabbalah. Jewish mysticism depicts the tree of life in the form of 10 interconnected nodes, as the central symbol of the Kabbalah. It comprises the 10 separate powers in the divine realm. The panentheistic and anthropomorphic emphasis of this emanationist theology interpreted the Torah, Jewish observance, and the purpose of creation as the symbolic esoteric drama of unification in the Sephirot, restoring harmony to creation. From the time of the Renaissance onwards, Jewish Kabbalah became incorporated as an important tradition in non-Jewish Western culture, first through its adoption by Christian Kabbalah, and continuing in Western esotericism occult Hermetic Kabbalah. These adapted the Judaic Kabbalah tree of life syncretically by associating it with other religious traditions, esoteric theologies, and magical practices. Mesoamerica. The concept of world trees is a prevalent motif in pre-Columbian Mesoamerican cosmologies and iconography. World trees embodied the 4 cardinal directions, which represented also the fourfold nature of a central world tree, a symbolic axis mundi connecting the planes of the underworld and the sky with that of the terrestrial world. Depictions of world trees, both in their directional and central aspects, are found in the art and mythological traditions of cultures such as the Maya, Aztec, Azapan, Mixtec, Olmec, and others, dating to at least the mid-late formative periods of Mesoamerican chronology. Among the Maya, the central world tree was conceived as or represented by a ceiba tree, and is known variously as a Huacachan or Yaximixche, depending on the Mayan language. The trunk of the tree could also be represented by an upright caiman, whose skin evokes the tree's spiny trunk. Directional world trees are also associated with the 4-year bearers in Mesoamerican calendars, and the directional colors in deities. Mesoamerican codices which have this association outlined include the Dresden, Borgia and Fajar copyright RVARY Maya codices. It is supposed the Mesoamerican sites and ceremonial centers frequently had actual trees planted at each of the 4 cardinal directions, representing the quadripartite concept. World trees are frequently depicted with birds in their branches, and their roots extending into earth or water. The central world tree has also been interpreted as a representation of the band of the Milky Way. Middle East, the Epic of Gilgamesh is a similar quest for immortality. In Mesopotamian mythology, the Etana searches for a plant of birth to provide him with a son. This is a solid provenance of antiquity, being found in cylinder seals from Akkad. The Book of 1001 Nights is a story, the tale of Bulukiya, in which the hero searches for immortality and finds a paradise with jewel-encrusted trees. Nearby is a fountain of youth guarded by Al-Khidr. Unable to defeat the guard, Bulukiya has to return empty-handed. North America, in a myth passed down among the Iroquois, the world on the turtle's back, explains the origin of the land in which a tree of life is described. According to the myth, it is found in the heavens, where the first humans lived, until a pregnant woman fell and landed in an endless sea. Saved by a giant turtle from drowning, she formed the world on its back by planting bark taken from the tree. The Tree of Life motif is present in the traditional Ojibwe cosmology and traditions. It is sometimes described as Grandmother Cedar, or Nukamis Gaidsig in Anishin or Abamoin. Syro-religion. In Syro-religion, the Tree of Life as a religious concept forms the basis of Syro cosmogony. Trees were the first things created on earth by the supreme being Rug. In the competing versions of the Syro creation myth, the Som and the Zaz tree are both viewed as trees of life. However, the prevailing view is that the Som was the first tree on earth and the progenitor of plant life. The Som was also used in the Syro tumuli and burial chambers, many of which had survived for more than 1,000 years. Thus, Som is not only the tree of life in Syro society, but the symbol of immortality. Turkic world. The world tree or tree of life is a central symbol in Turkic mythology. The blue sky around the tree reflects the peaceful nature of the country, and the red ring that surrounds all of the elements symbolizes the ancient faith of rebirth, growth and development of the Turkic peoples. Biology. The tree of life is a metaphor describing the relationship of all life on Earth in an evolutionary context. Charles Darwin talked about envisioning evolution as a tangled banking on the origin of species. However, the book's sole illustration is of a branch diagram that is very tree-like. From the first growth of the tree, many a limb and branch has decayed and dropped off. And these fallen branches of various sizes may represent those whole orders, families, and genera which have now no living representatives, and which are known to us only in a fossil state. As we here and there see a thin, straggling branch springing from a fork low down in a tree, and which by some chance has been favored and is still alive on its summit, so we occasionally see an animal like the Ornithorhynchus or Lepidosiren, which in some small degree connects by its affinities two large branches of life, and which has apparently been saved from fatal competition by having inhabited a protected station. As buds give rise by growth to fresh buds, and these, if vigorous, branch out and overtop on all sides many a feebler branch, so by generation I believe it has been with the great tree of life, which fills with its dead and broken branches the crust of the earth, and covers the surface with its ever-branching and beautiful ramifications. The evolutionary relationships of the tree of life were refined using genetic data by the American microbiologist Carl Oes, the discoverer of the domain Archaea and a pioneer in molecular methods in evolutionary biology. In February 2009, BBC One broadcast an animated, interactive Tree of Life as part of its Darwin season. The Tree of Life Wire project is an ongoing internet project containing information about phylogeny and biodiversity, produced by biologists from around the world. Each page contains information about one group of organisms and is organized according to a branched tree-like form, thus showing relationships between organisms and groups of organisms. The neuroanatomical term arbor vitae describes the branching pattern between the cortical gray matter and subcortical white matter of the cerebellum. Popular culture, art and architecture, a 2.5-story high Tree of Life sculpture by Wisconsin artist Nancy Metz White was installed in Mitchell Boulevard Park in Milwaukee in 2002. The tree is made of brightly painted welded steel and forge flashings recycled from Milwaukee heavy industry. Austrian symbolist artist Gustav Klimt portrayed his version of the Tree of Life in his painting, The Tree of Life, Stocklit Frieze. This iconic painting later inspired the external facade of the new Residence Hall, a colorful 21-story student residence hall at Massachusetts College of Art and Design in Boston, Massachusetts. Contemporary Welsh artist Jen Delaith created a Celtic Tree of Life symbol, in part based on ancient Celtic veneration of trees and traditional Celtic designs. Music. In their album Emissaries, the black metal Melachech make a reference to the Tree of Life in their song Touching the Spheres of Sephiroth. American rock band Oasis featured a Tree of Life both on the cover art and on the actual CD for the album In Between Now and Then, double album Bath/Leaving Your Body Map by avant-garde metal band Maudlin of the Well was constructed based upon a parallel Kabbalistic Tree of Life structure. The double album Axis Mutatis by the electronic group The Shaman contains in some limited editions the instrumental album Arbor Bona Arbamella. The title refers to the Tree of Life, the ancient symbol found in virtually all shamanic cultures, linking the underworld with the earth and the heavens. Also, on the cover of Axis Mutatis appears a representation of the Tree of Life by William Latham. In Korean boys band, EXO's music video Mama, the 12 Forces will be the one to restore the Tree of Life. Rapper Ab-Soul uses the Tree of Life as the cover of his Control System album, Fiction, Literature. In George Herbert's poem The Sacrifice, the Tree of Life is the root on which Jesus Christ was crucified. In Stephen Donaldson's Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever, the one tree is the tree from which the Staff of Law was produced. In C.S. Lewis' Chronicles of Narnia, the Tree of Life plays a role, especially in the sixth published book The Magician's Nephew. In Robert Jordan Wheel of Time the Tree of Life of Endersaur and as the last of its kind plays a pivotal role. This tree also linked to the Buddhist Bodhi tree, beneath which the Buddha attained nirvana. Tree of Life is the name of a plant in Larry Niven's known space novels that, when consumed by pack breeders at a certain age, transforms them into pack protectors. In the Roger Zelazny's 1978 novel The Chronicles of Amber, the Courts of Chaos Prince Corwin encounters Ig, a tree who speaks and is planted on the border between order and chaos, between Amber and Courts of Chaos. In The Sea of Trolls written by Nancy Farmer, the Tree of Life is a place holding magical powers. Video games, the Norse Tree of Life, Yggdrasil, is either featured or referenced in many games, including those of the Tales RPG series, the 2002 video game Wild Arms A3 and the 2008 video game Two Human. In the Atari 2600 game Sword Quest, Fire a World, the map of the game world is patterned after the Kabbalah Tree of Life. In the 1997 video game Breath of Fire 3, Yggdrasil, overseer of the world's forests, features a minor role. The mutant plant Peko, a party member, becomes able to channel Yggdrasil after a time skip of several years, during which Peko made extended visits to Yggdrasil. In the 2002 video game Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, a Tree of Life is the central building of the Night Elf race. In the Atrian Odyssey series, a great tree named Yggdrasil is present in all four games, serving as a major plot device to the story. In the 2007 video game Dragoneer Zarya, the Great Spirit guards a world tree. In the 2008 video game Prince of Persia, a gigantic, ancient tree in the middle of the desert is used to keep the evil deity Ahriman sealed in a temple at its trunk. This game's story heavily borrows from Zoroastrianism. In the 2009 video game Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, the Tree of Life grows within the city of Shambhala, and the sap or fossilized resin from the tree is seen to be consumed by the inhabitants of the city. This in turn grants the user incredible regenerative abilities, strength, increased height and possible biological immortality. The sap from the tree represents the Sintamani stone of Buddhist mythology, a giant raw sapphire with supposed wish-fulfilling properties. In the 2009 video game Dragon Quest IX, the player must harvest figs from Yggdrasil, the world tree, to attain passage into the realm of the Almighty. In the 2010 video game Darksiders, the Tree of Life is located in Eden where War sees the future and a way to defeat Abaddon the Destroyer. The Tree of Life gives War the Armageddon blade needed to kill him. In the 2012 video game Darksiders 2, the Tree of Life is a gateway that connects all the realms of existence, allowing the Horseman Death to travel to different maps within the game. In the 2012 video game Hack/Loot, there are several items made of a material titled Ostras Cox, which is the Tree of Life in Latvian mythology. Players can also find a golden apple, which is believed to come from the same tree. In the 2013 game Poker Copyright Mon X and Y, the legendary poker copyright Mon Iviltal and Xerneas are supposedly based on two animals depicted on the Norse Tree of Life, Xerneas being life and Iviltal being death. Film, Darren Aronofsky's 2006 film The Fountain centers on immortality given by the Tree of Life. In the 2008 movie The Librarian, the religious mention of the Tree of Life is clearly seen in parts with a Crusade-era picture of a knight with his shield and that of the Tree of Life. Another part of the movie depicts a fake secret area beneath a New York City museum, where there are historical items such as the Fountain of Youth and Noah's Ark. At the end of the movie the camera angle changes and the ground's walking surface is revealed to be that of the Tree of Life. In Dragon Ball Z's third movie Tree of Might, a giant tree named the Tree of Might is represented as an evil version of the Tree of Life. Its roots take so much nutrients from the planet it has been seeded on that it kills the planet to support its root and growth. It is also a very massive tree, much like the Tree of Life can be represented as. In the 2009 film Avatar, the Na'vi live in Home Tree, the spiritual and physical home of the tribe. Over 300 meters tall, Home Tree is connected with all the other plant life of Pandora through a neural-like network. They revere the Tree of Souls, which is also connected with all other living things. Alex Proyer's 2009 film Knowing ends with the two young protagonists directed towards the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is a Terrence Malick film released in May 2011, starring Brad Pitt, Sean Penn and Jessica Chastain. The Marvel Cinematic Universe film franchise features a Tree of Life, in a more science-based version of the mythical tree. In the 2011 Marvel Studios superhero film Thor, the Asgardian warrior Thor explains that the 9 realms of the Asgardian cosmos are linked by Yggdrasil, the Norse mythological Tree of Life, which is here interpreted as a nebula in space connecting the planets in an orbit. Anime: in the anime Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water, there is a giant tree beneath Antarctica that is identified as the Tree of Life by Captain Nemo. In the anime R. My Goddess Yggdrasil is a program that acts as the operating system for all life reality. In the anime Genesis of Aquarian, the Tree of Life is being fed to create a new Genesis. In the anime Rin, Daughters of Nemesis, the Tree of Life is an eternal tree that bears fruit that grants immortal life to woman, while men are turned into short-lived angel-like creatures who have sex with and then kill the immortal woman. In the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, the Tree of Life was the source of all souls. Evangelion Unit 01 became the Tree of Life that once existed when it possessed the Fruit of Wisdom and Fruit of Life during Third Impact. In the anime Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's the final antagonist Z1, uses a deck of cards that are parts of the Tree of Life. In the anime Full Metal Alchemist, the Tree of Life is depicted on the Alchemist's gates. In the anime Sword Art Online, there is a large tree named the Yggdrasil, or the Tree of Life, sitting in the center of the Vmipgalfheim Online. In the anime Naruto, the ten-tailed beast is revealed to be the harbinger of all life and mystical powers, and its true form is a tree. The logo of American health service and insurance company Cigna makes use of a Tree of Life motif. Decorative arts. The grandfather of British studio pottery, Bernard Leach, famously used a Tree of Life on many of his works. Something which was continued by his son David Leach, among others. A motif of the Tree of Life is featured on Turkish 5 kilo coins, circulated since early 2009. Physical trees of life, the arbor gets its name from the Latin for tree of life. The tule tree of Aztec mythology is also associated with a real tree. This tule tree can be found in Oaxaca, Mexico. There is a Tree of Life in the island country of Bahrain in the Persian Gulf. Metaphor: the Tree of Utah is an 87-foot-high sculpture in the Utah Bonneville Salt Flats that is also known as the Tree of Life. In some parts of the Caribbean and in the Philippines, the coconut is considered the Tree of Life as its parts can easily be used for short-medium-term survival, such as for food, shelter, and various implements. Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park features an artificial tree dubbed the Tree of Life, which has about 325 carvings of different species of animals. Inside the tree is the "It's Tough to Be a Bug" attraction. The West African Moringa oleifera tree is regarded as a Tree of Life, or miracle tree by some because it is arguably the most nutritious source of plant-derived food discovered on the planet. Modern scientists and some missionary groups have considered the plant as a possible solution for the treatment of severe malnutrition and aid for those with HIV/AIDS. See also. References. Further reading: Marzea, Elena Maria. The Quest for Eden. New York, Philosophical Library. ISBN 08022106350. External links: tolwip.org, a Euro Tree of Life Ware project at tolwip.org, one Zoom Tree of Life Explorer at unzoom.org,